Hello, and welcome to the Santa Monica Homeless Count Team Captain training video. Thanks again for volunteering to serve in this very important event. This brief video will provide you some background about the homeless count, instructions on how to complete the forms, and a few tips to make sure the count goes safely and smoothly. So whether you've been counting with us for years or this is your first time volunteering, please sit back and enjoy this brief presentation.
Let's start by talking about how the teams are formed. Not all the teams are going to be pre-assigned this year. Some team assignments are going to be randomly distributed at check-in the night of the count. Teams are going to be capped at 3 to 4 members each, including the team captain. Some of you have already handpicked your teams, and we thank you for that. We will do our best to keep your teams whole, but we'll discuss team assignments in a bit. Seating is arranged by team, so you should be able to tell by 11 o'clock who is on your team. For those people wanting to switch teams, we have a couple procedures in place. We are encouraging an even exchange, that is, a team member can check in with you, the captain, and then go to another team and find a volunteer willing to swap with them. If the other team captain approves, the swap is fine. However, if someone can't find a volunteer to swap, then the team captain can authorize a switch, but only if you have enough team members and the other team can accommodate an extra person. Based on your area your team is covering, there's a minimum required team numbers to make up this team. It's important that we don't fall below the minimum team number for your assigned area. This is what your team roster form will look like. We'll make an announcement just before the training starts on when and how to fill this out. Do not fill it out early, since some people may be moving around. Please list the names of each person on your team. In the right-hand column, next to name, this is where you'll put people who are willing to help us out and move to another team that may be short-handed. If that's the case, put not applicable, because there are no changes that would prevent them from moving teams. However, if any person needs to stay on this specific team for some reason, then please put a brief explanation here, like cannot walk, or they must stay with their friend, or they want to stay in a specific neighborhood or area. Please do not debate this with people. If there is a problem, make a note so city staff will work with you and your team to figure it out. During the training, staff will come by to pick up the team roster forms and review them, moving people around to fill in gaps as needed. After the training, staff will announce the names and new team assignments for alternate team captains and any fillers or switches that have had to take place. Staff will reconfirm your team with you at the deployment door before you leave. If you do not have your minimum team numbers by this time, please notify staff immediately. Now let's look at the instruction sheet. Each team will have its own specific and unique instruction sheet with different information on it. The purpose of this sheet is to inform you about your team and the area you're to count. Please fill out this form completely and remember to leave your cell phone number. See also the emergency phone numbers, including Santa Monica Police, supervisors, dispatch, and city staff. Please feel free to use these numbers if you should need them for any reason during the count. Refer to the special instructions on your team instruction sheet about where to look for people, where to drive or get out and walk. The following 4 teams have special Santa Monica Police Department personnel assigned and should not leave the deployment site without their police escort. These teams are Team 7B, Reed Park. This team has a park ranger assigned to your team. Again, don't leave deployment site without your park ranger. Their name will be listed on the instruction sheet. Team 9 is the parking structures downtown. You'll be assigned a community service officers for escort. Please don't leave the deployment site without them. Similarly, Team 11, another set of parking structures, will also have a CSO escort. And Team 59 is Palisades Park. A park ranger has been assigned to your team as well. Don't leave without your park ranger or CSO if one has been assigned and specified on your team instruction sheet. The name of your ranger or CSO will be on your team instruction sheet, along with the phone number and contact information. If you're not on one of these teams, but your area does include a park, please call your beat officer from the contact information when you arrive at the park so they can be nearby. Parks are not necessarily dangerous, but we want to make sure that there's extra security nearby since they may not be well lit that late at night.
This is an example of a team map. The shaded area outside of the box is not your area to count. These sections will be counted by other teams. You want to familiarize yourself with the legend and the information on the right side of the map. This will show the survey boundaries and any special areas within your team assignment. Only count the highlighted portion of the map, which is within the blue lines, and the unshaded areas. This may seem simple, but every year we have problems reconciling count numbers due to people working outside of their assigned area. Your team's area will be outlined in blue. When the blue line follows a street, imagine that the blue line cuts the street in half down the middle. You're only responsible to count homeless people that you encounter on the side of the street that would be considered inside your area. For example, to the map shown, the southern edge is Montana Avenue. Your team is only required to count on the north side of Montana, or in this picture, the left side of the blue line. Other teams will count the south side, the part that appears in the shaded area outside of your team's area. We don't want to be double counting, which is why we count late, when we hope most folks are bedded down for the night. But if you see an individual walking between two areas, make a note and talk to city staff when you return. We will not be going onto private property, abandoned buildings, or any of the areas that are closest to the public. This includes construction areas and the Expo Line stations and tracks. You may enter the parks, open parking lots of public buildings, and alleys. Now here's a note about parks and parking structures. 4 teams have police department personnel assigned to their teams. 2 are covering more densely populated parks, that's Team 7B and Team 59, and they'll be going out with park rangers or PSOs, and Teams 9 and 11 are covering the downtown parking structures, and they're going out with assigned Santa Monica police personnel. If you're assigned to one of these teams, do not leave the building at St. Monica's until you have your assigned officer with you. As we mentioned before, if your team includes a park, please call the assigned SMPD beat officer at the contact provided on your instruction sheet when you arrive. If there is no contact number, call SMPD dispatch at 310-458-8491. And a note about construction and the Expo Line. If an area has changed or is now inaccessible, don't worry about that area. Don't enter any construction area or construction sites throughout the city or the Expo Station platforms, and please stay off the railroad tracks. Make a note on your map if there are any areas that you are unable to access. If you're on a driving team that may be near the Expo light rail line, please be very clear and aware of signage and new traffic rules along the tracks. A lot of cross streets are now no left turn or no right on red. Obey these signs, even at 2 in the morning. While we're working off the most updated maps available, some street closures or directions of traffic may not be reflected on your maps, so please stay alert. We apologize if you have to take the scenic route or double back on some streets. Do not go around barricades. If a section of your area is completely inaccessible, please mark it on the map. We will have Santa Monica Police Department check the area later in the evening. Remember, the shaded area outside of the box is not your team's area to count. These zones will be covered by other teams. You're only responsible for the lighter colored areas within the blue lines indicated on your team map. Remember to pay attention to the special instructions on your team instructions sheet about particular areas within your zone. And remember, if an SMPD officer or public service officer is assigned to your team, do not leave the deployment site without them. At the conclusion of the volunteer orientation and training the night of the count, you want to make sure that your teammates are all together and that you have all the materials and clipboards and forms that you'll need before you deploy. It's very important that you and your team deploy together and exit through the appropriate door at St. Monica's. Please double check your team instructions, and if your team has a Santa Monica Police Department or Public Services officer assigned to your team, it is very important that you do not leave St. Monica's without your Santa Monica PD personnel escort.
Each team has been assigned one clipboard, one map, and two tally sheets. As team captain, you're responsible to designate someone to fill out the tally sheets and hold the map. One tally sheet will be the street count tally sheet, which you'll use to capture how many people, vehicles, and encampments you see. This tally sheet is pictured on the left side of this slide. There are a couple new fields this year. Homeless individuals will be divided into three categories: adult 25 and up, young adults 18 to 24, and homeless minors under 18. Use your best judgment to determine which category individuals may fit into. Adults within homeless families will also be divided into these categories: adults 25 and up, young adults 18 to 24, and minor children under age 18. The other tally sheet is called the address tally sheet, which you'll use to tell us where you find people using a street address. It's important that you verify the correct street when looking at a corner building, so look carefully. The addresses are important as we use this data to plot locations and find population density. You may have noticed our results maps from previous years. Obviously, we use data about addresses of where individuals, vehicles, and encampments were counted to create these maps, and we want to know where folks are now so that we can effectively outreach to them. We also analyze data across time to see trends in movement. Another update for this year, we've added a column on the left-hand side of the address tally sheet, which starts at the letter A and continues through the alphabet through L. This is meant to be a helpful tool to identify the location of where you find people, vehicles, or encampments. For example, at one location you encounter a homeless individual and a car that appears to be lived in. You will mark a tally line on the street count tally sheet under individuals and one line under cars. Then you'll complete the address tally sheet on row A, noting that there is one person and one car at that address. Then you will mark your location on the map with the letter A. Ensure that the letter you place on your team map matches the corresponding address that you list on the address tally sheet. As you'll see, this map identifies the location of homeless people with the corresponding letter of the alphabet from the address tally sheet. As team captain, it's your role to help manage people's expectations and emotions if you're in an area and you don't find any homeless people on the streets. Remember, not all parts of the city have homeless folks sleeping outside. That's okay, and reflecting that is valuable information. It's okay to come back with a tally sheet that has 0 on it. People may get annoyed, almost as if the night has been a waste of their time. However, this couldn't be further from the truth. All data is valuable, and remember, the results from this count help direct funding for homeless services. Remember, as a team captain, you don't have to do it all. One of your main responsibilities is delegating obligations to other people on your team. Assign somebody to read the map, plan your route, and keep the team within the boundaries. Assign someone else to be a timekeeper. They need to alert you to try to pick up the pace when necessary, of course in a manner that's still thorough, so that your area can be covered and you're back no later than 2 a.m. Someone else should fill out the tally sheets. Remember, there's two tally sheets, one that's simply a hash mark of the individuals, vehicles, and encampments in your area, and the other is the address tally sheet. These two tally sheets need to correspond with each other. Ensure that the numbers match and complete by filling out your deployment time. Also, remember to place the corresponding letters from the address tally sheet on your team map in the appropriate locations. Ensure that the letters on the map correspond to the matching address listed on the address tally sheet. There are two big issues we experience every year: teams that go outside of their own boundaries and count in somebody else's area, and tally sheets that aren't clear. For the map, pay attention to the east and west, north and south boundaries of your area. If you have questions about north, south, east, and west, you may want to refer to a smartphone or assign somebody to be in charge of the boundaries who's more comfortable with directions. On your tally sheets, Be very clear on how many hash marks are made in each section. Street addresses can also be difficult. For example, a building that's on the corner or the intersection of two streets. Refer to your map. If you can't find the address, write out a detailed description of the location. For example, 7-Eleven at Wilshire and 7th Street, and refer to your map. We can send SMPD the following day and get a quote good enough address. If you have a smartphone, take a picture of the location and use the city's Go system and choose homeless related issue, and you can make a note on the address sheet. Another responsibility of the team captain is to ensure that teams remain together the whole time. You may be tempted to split up in order to speed up your count. As a captain, your responsibility is to make sure your entire area is covered, which you can't do if you split up your team. So return as a team. Don't allow people to return home directly from the field. You should all come back to the deployment site together. Turn in your tally sheet, clipboard, and flashlight, and please note what time you return. This helps us track trends over time and make adjustments as needed. And now for an important word about safety. Always look both ways when you're crossing streets. If you're feeling unsure or not safe, you can call SMPD dispatch at 310-458-8491, or if you're having an immediate emergency, call 911. Remember, the police department knows we're out there and they'll be on the lookout for teams. Information for your police officers, including the beat officer assigned to your team, will be on your team instruction sheet. If you're driving to a location, when you park, please park legally and place your parking placard sign in the dashboard so that police that's coming by knows what's going on with your car. You have contact information for city staff. A few of us will be staying at the deployment site all night and can troubleshoot any issues that arise. And various police department staff, their information will be on your instruction sheet. As you know, 2016 brought the historic opening of the Metro Expo Line. It's important to take into account several safety considerations so that your team has a safe and successful homeless count experience. Trains may be running, so stay off the tracks. It may not be legal to make a left turn in some areas, and please exercise caution following all posted traffic signs. Obey all warning signs and traffic signals and be aware of changes to traffic patterns. If you do have to cross the tracks, use crosswalks. Do not jaywalk across the tracks or jaywalk in any area of the city. Please steer clear of the train stations and the platforms. These will be counted by other teams. Also, do not count the Expo bike path areas east of 17th Street. Santa Monica PD will help us count these areas. When in doubt, exercise extreme caution when near construction sites or the Expo Line.
And thank you for watching this presentation. For more information, please visit www.santamonicahomelesscount.com. If you have questions, you can click the Contact Us page and get in touch with us there. You can also visit smgov.net or reach us by phone at 310-458-8701. Thank you so much for participating in the homeless count. We look forward to seeing you.